It's hey, we're live. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into the Banff podcast. I am your ever loving blue-eyed host, Mike Lafferty, and today we're not promoting Kickstarters. I don't have any particular theme. We're just doing one of these. Hey, what are you into? Roundtable discussions, and got a bunch of the usual co-hosts. Aid Smith, how you doing, Aid?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to have you back, Jacob Blackman. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing well today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Christopher McLaughlin, how you doing, sir?
I have 1,601 reasons to feel like the luckiest, most blessed man on the planet. Thank you very much, sir.
Chris's Kickstarter was just very successful, so thanks to everyone who backed that.
Yes.
And last but not least, Walter Billiard. How you doing, Walt?
I am not the droid you're looking for.
Well, that is true. That is true. All right,
but we do finally get to see you after a long absence of your camera.
Oh yeah.
Now that your face is all reconstructed.
I know, it was a little weird. I mean, my nose normally shifts to the left a little bit because it's been broken many times. But this last time, it was basically sitting on my left eye. So I was like, yeah, nobody needs to see me go all Elephant Man.
Well, who wants to start?
Aid.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Okay, so it's been some good stuff coming out of the comic conventions that have been over the last couple of days and the weekend. So we have the return of the Fantastic Four coming, hopefully, in the next couple of months, which is going to be very, very good. The Marvel 2-in-1 series with Ben and Johnny Storm are still going to continue, apparently, afterwards with a Thing and other character team up like the old classic 70s series.
I've been really enjoying that one.
Yeah, we should hopefully be getting a proper Fantastic Four book as well. So that's very, very good news in my opinion, as long as we get a decent story for it. And hopefully they won't cancel it after 6 issues and relaunch it like they do with everything else they do. But that's pretty damn cool. But the book I was probably enjoying at the moment is a DC book, which is The Terrifics, which is the second issue of that. Mainly because it's got Plastic Man in it, which is the first reason I bought it, which has also got a mini-series coming out in the next couple of months as well. But it's Metal spin-off, Mr. Terrific. We have a Phantom Lady or Phantom Girl, I don't know what she's actually going by at the moment, from a Legion-S spin-off, Metamorpho, Plastic Man, and the addition of Tom Strong coming along as well in the next couple of issues. And
so Tom Strong's coming back?
Tom Strong's just appeared as a hologram and basically said, if you're hearing this and I'm already dead, just like, okay, Tom Strong's in it. That's cool. But we've not yet seen him actually active and running around and seeing how he fits in with the DC universe and what other characters are coming with him. Because obviously a lot of the ABC stories would probably not fit in with current DC universe. So we'll see exactly what goes with that. But Tom Strong was always another one of my favorite characters. So you got an opportunity to read some more stuff with him in it. Give it a try.
So this character in Terrific's Phantom Girl, does she have any backstory in the DC universe?
As far as I know, because my Legion knowledge is not good, she is not a character we've seen before. She comes from the same planet that the Legion characters have come before, and effectively her backstory, as explained in issue 2, was she was in a space shuttle. It was going to crash somewhere. Her parents sent her off in a little pod. The pod went through this warp thingy, and she spent the last X amount of years in the Dark Union multiverse, just basically sitting there, trapped in her intangible form. So all the nasty creatures there couldn't attack her, and she just pretty much sat on a rock for decades. So that's pretty much her backstory. So I don't think we'll have, unless obviously she's lying, we're not going to have like any massive reveals of, hey, you were that character. So I think that's pretty much as far as it's going to go. So whether or not she will be linked to Legion, because obviously we've got a lot of Legion stuff popping up in various locations, including Metal and Doomsday Clock and all this kind of stuff. So we may see some Legion links.
It seems like every few years they want to do a big event and bring back Legion. And I have just never been a Legion fan. I'm only aware of their attempts to reboot it. And it always seemed to last maybe a few months. And then they cancel it and it's not around for a while.
I've always liked the Legion. I always thought it was very cool. But obviously, I did like the Justice League 3000 book, which is technically set in the same era. And they were saying like that. Okay, that's a possibility. That might be a spin-off to like a Legion parallel universe thing or like that. So obviously, there is a kind of like a market for a science fiction-y. Because at the moment, DC haven't got, apart from Lanterns, that's it, isn't it? I can't think of anything else that's science fiction-y at the moment. They've actually got as a core book. not like the old heyday when you have like lots and lots of stuff going on, like cosmic stuff, and like Marvel's obviously era when we had all the Annihilation stuff going on. But
Marvel's doing countdown to Infinity something right now, but yeah.
Oh yeah, the Infinity Gem malarkey. Yeah.
Because we have to tie everything into our movies.
Oh dear.
Well, but they don't really. But it's
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because obviously they've so going back to that, they've just literally announced a new Mutants miniseries to tie in with the New Mutants movie that's coming out. Oh crap, it's been pushed back to 2019. Jesus, what are we going to do now? That's interesting. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, that one.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, terrific. It's a very, very good book. Definitely out of the kind of like the new reboot books, or new reboot books, the new wave of hero books that Metal has kind of like appeared. That one's definitely the one that seems to appeal to me most. Although there is a Hawkman book coming up pretty soon as well.
Really?
Oh yeah. So as long as Liefeld don't get hold of it like he did the other one, then this one I might actually stick with. We'll see. But
have you checked out some of the other new character books like Damage?
I haven't. Again, it's the problem with when they do these relaunches is that you can't. I generally go, okay, right, I can either buy the lot and spend a shed load of money, or I can focus on the books I actually care about. And this one looked really good because obviously had Plastic Man in it. Damage, so all the other stuff might become trades. I know there's another one. Oh, crikey. The new Challengers look good because I always used to like Challenge the Unknown book. And there's another one with Ryan Sook. I think it's called The Unknown or something or other. And that was probably worth looking at just because Ryan Sook's doing the artwork for it. But they're all complete. They are completely unique characters. They've not been seen anywhere else. So it's again, until you've read it, you don't know what the theme's going to be like. But yeah, I think we'll see who sticks around. It'd be interesting whether or not it'll go like the old crikey, what's it called? The annual they did years and years ago. With all the heroes introduced, where we got Hitman from and all that kind of stuff.
Have you checked out Abnet's new title with them?
No, I haven't. Which one's that one?
Silencer.
Oh, yeah. Silencer. Yeah, no, not seen. No, not read that one either. No.
I got to tell you, a hit woman turned like soccer mom who uses like the stuff that's randomly found around her minivan to kick the crap out of like a major villain.
Okay.
or what would be to a normal human a major villain. That just made my day.
Yeah, that was good combat scene. I just read about that this morning, actually.
Is there any Metal references to that? Is there any reason why she's arrived at this point in time, or is it just that hasn't been explained yet?
I don't think there's been. I've only read issue 2, and I don't think there's been any Metal references. I think it's just she was in the what do they call it? The under something. It's kind of like their version of the Underworld.
Right,
and it's very reminiscent of like John Wick, where there's this whole society that exists of assassins, that you can basically order, like items on a menu, and they
isn't that called the League of Shadows?
No. It's less what do you call it? Less creepy than that. Like it's not as mystical. Like these are just straight out hitmen, and
like the Amish.
Yeah, because they hide things in those weird like heaters they make. But like she went all John Wick and basically got out of the life, and then it comes back looking for her, and it's all the first issue is pretty much like her trying to hide the fact that she's had to strap on 2 Mac 11s and go to town on a dude. So I mean it's
cool.
It was good. And
written by a friend of the podcast, Dan Abnett.
Yeah. It's like, obviously, the other ones, like the Jim Lee book is supposedly going to have the Batman Who Laughs in it at some point, which is obviously one of the Metal bad guys. Challenger Mountain was tripped in the Dark Multiverse, so that's why that's now arrived, because it's tied into Metal. But Metal was very vague. Metal had this kind of like a little... excuse me. As we were talking earlier on about Dark Stars coming back, there's like a little 2-page spread at the end of Metal that kind of said, "Hey, this stuff's all coming in the future. Is it anything to do with Metal? We're not too sure, but this is what's going to happen." So yeah, that's it. But all to all, yep, Terrific is pretty decent. So.
Well, hey, speaking of Dark Stars coming back, that's happening related to Green Lantern, right? And Chris, didn't you want to talk about Green Lantern?
Well, You know, there's certain books that I don't know. It's like I'm contractually obligated to read them. It's like I have to buy Flash books. I have to try every Hawkman title before it gets canceled at issue 9, and I'm the same way with Green Lantern. And I have to say, you know, obviously a lot of guys have tackled Green Lantern and the associated properties over the years, but Robert Venditti, the guy who's been handling the main Green Lantern title ever since Jeff Johns finally left writing monthly comics so that he could go off and do bad Watchmen fanfic. He's done some of the best Green Lantern stories I've ever read, and I don't think he gets nearly as much credit as he deserves for just the great touches that he's added to Hal Jordan, who is not my favorite Lantern, and you know, added. I mean, really, Johns was fabulous on his run on Green Lantern. It really was a majestic run, but Venditti's done a great job by and large of filling in for him. But the only time that I come away dissatisfied from a Venditti Green Lantern book is where it's pretty obvious that editorial has written it rather than him. You know, I think most everybody else is sort of, you know, traumatically blocked out the whole Hal in a hoodie era. You know, clearly not his idea. He did the best he could with it, but I don't think anybody's going to be revisiting that era anytime soon. Well, for those of you that have been keeping up with things, the current setup is that it's Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. It's a book that's supposed to feature Hal and Guy and John and Kyle. But take a look at the title. You never guess who tends to get the spotlight in this book. And while there have been some really good stories on this current post-Rebirth run, they seem to be in this pattern where villain shows up, beats the crap out of some combination of Guy and or Kyle. Only Hal can save them because Hal is the most awesomest guy who ever lived. And Kyle and Guy stand around and talk about how great Hal is. And it's really, again, you know, Venditti's Hal is probably the most bearable Hal Jordan that's ever been written. But to me, it's like, why even bother having Guy and Kyle and John to be in this book if all they are is like Hal's backup singers? Frankly, I'd rather that they weren't doing anything at all with these characters rather than just having them there to get their ass kicked to show how bad Hal Jordan is.
You know, I hate to bring up something this old, but that was always my problem with the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
Tonto's going into town to get supplies, and every time you're like, Bill Cosby had a routine about this. You're like, no, Tonto, don't go into town to get those supplies, because every time he did, he got kidnapped or beat up, and then the Lone Ranger would have to go save him. And yeah. Every time. But yeah, I was a big Kyle Rayner fan back in the 90s. They haven't really done much with him since then. That's kind of been my problem. I mean,
my friend, if you missed out on the New Guardians book, you missed something really special, especially when Justin Jordan takes over.
Really? Okay.
Really, some of my really, if I had to rank my post New 52 comics, oh God, I want to say it's Tony Bedard. I apologize if I'm getting it wrong. Who wrote the first 20 issues of New Guardians isn't bad, but the Justin Jordan run for the last 20 some issues is really it's one of my favorite modern era comic runs. It's really, 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 really good. And the crossover that they did between Justin Jordan's New Guardians, Venditti's Green Lantern, and Charles Soule's Red Lanterns, that honestly may be the best comic book crossover I've ever read. It's Genesis, because it does something that I thought damn near impossible. It brings in like everybody that's got a ring, including Sinestro. All of the stories hang together through like the 30 some parts of it, and the conclusion of the story, I won't spoil it, don't worry. But the conclusion of the story, every single protagonist character, from like Simon Baz all the way up to Hal and Kyle and Sinestro, each one of them is instrumental in resolving the conflict.
Oh,
it's like if you were to take any of these guys out, it would completely wreck things. Now, all right, hold on a second here. You guys go ahead and talk. I got a phone call coming in.
Nice to know we're a priority, Chris. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
sorry.
I at least had to hang up on them. Okay, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to when that editorial stops trying to write the book for Venditti and just lets the man. And honestly, it'll be a lot better once they can find some way to let Hal have his usual boring ass book, or Hal is his usual boring ass self, and they give some shine, some time to the other ones.
There's only 2 Green Lantern books now, isn't there?
Yes.
Now, so do you think it would? Have we just got too many lanterns? Is this the problem? Because I don't think we can support one lantern book for every lantern.
The fact that it's death if you have to me, if you have so many characters with the exact same superpower.
Yes,
and that's always been a problem, and it's a shame. I mean, it's like I'm reading the other Green Lanterns book with Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz, and it's an okay read now. It was a fabulous read when Sam Humphries was writing it, and it was almost tragic. It's like the biggest flaw of these characters is they're like the 800th human Green Lanterns. Mm-hmm. It's like if they had any difference in their powers, I think this book would get a lot more attention. But it's just there's so many human lanterns. And the thing that always baffles me is, out of the 800 human lanterns, who does DC put out first? By far the least interesting of the bunch. Well, if it weren't for Barry Allen, Hal Jordan would be the most boring comic book character that's endured over any length of time. Now, again, Venditti has made the character as interesting as he's ever been, but I would still much rather see what John Guy and Kyle are up to.
So the Dark Stars are coming back. That's a thing.
Apparently they're teasing that. Yes, and apparently, it's every 5 years, Guy Gardner has to completely change powers. So apparently, he's going to be the canary in that mine. We'll see how it goes.
That's what I was just going to say. It's odd that back in the day when you used to have like the Mosaic book with John Stewart, then you had the Warrior book with Guy Gardner.
Yep.
And then you had I think it was Carl Reiner at the moment that was the Green Lantern at that time. It's like, okay, so they can't all be Green Lanterns. Mosaic was a slightly offshoot thing, but I think if the cover goes by the next couple of Green Lantern issues where Guy is, or at least appears to be struggling with a Dark Stars costume, it's quite possible that Guy may go off and become Dark Star, and then that would be another one you can get off the list. But
it would be a step in the right direction, because honestly, the Lantern books have never been better than when Hal was a Green Lantern, Kyle was the White Lantern, Guy was a Red Lantern, and honestly, I wish they had taken it the next step and made John blue or indigo. I mean that would. I mean, there you go. They're true enough to what's gone before, but their powers are different enough to where you can actually tell some differences between these guys.
Didn't the Dark Stars die? Like the last 3 members died in Infinite Crisis fighting Starbreaker,
probably
in the Rand system.
Your memory of the Dark Stars is far better than mine.
I know Metal's got mention of these offshoot Guardians that are supposed to be restarting it, and then there's also stuff about a lot of stuff going on with Ran and going on with Hawkman and that kind of stuff coming up as well. So whether or not it will be tied into that, I don't know. But
okay, well, hey, we haven't talked to Jacob for a while. Jacob, what are you into right now?
Well, I am reading quite a few comics right now, continuing with Aquaman and the new Mera miniseries. But what I really want to talk about right now is some old school goodness that was just recently released. Last year, Goodman Games announced that they were doing a partnership with Wizards of the Coast to reproduce and publish classic modules from Dungeons & Dragons. And they were going to convert these into the new 5th edition system as well. And they announced that the first one they were going to do was modules B1 and B2, which are In Search of the Unknown, and the incredibly popular, everyone has played this and loved this module, The Keep on the Borderlands. And here it is. It's now out. And this thing is a monster. It's
my Christ.
400 pages.
I really want that book.
You can use that as a body armor plate.
Yeah, no doubt. This thing will stop a small caliber bullet. I'm sure of it. And but the fact is, it's got the classic modules in it, both versions of them, because they had different covers and slightly different art and slightly different material in them. So they have both modules of the old original modules, and then they have a 5th edition conversion, as well as a couple of extra little things that Goodman Games decided to put in. It's like, you know what, we kind of have a couple of adventure ideas that kind of relate to these modules. We'll put those in as well. And so, it's some extra thing to throw in with your Borderlands adventures, and I'm really excited. I just got my copy today. I'm looking forward to tearing through it and having some old school reading.
Hang on, is that all one adventure?
This technically 2 adventures, but Keep of the Borderlands and the dungeon from In Search of the Unknown take place in the same area.
Okay. And they're doing this, so this is basically an update of old TSR stuff to modern OSR stuff?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That sounds
I love they've kept the pink cover and they've kept the original artwork.
Yeah, that's
just cool.
They've got all the original art plates in there, and wow. they've got some new art that they put in for a couple of things, but all the old art is still in there.
That's Jeff D art, isn't it?
Some of it, yes.
I think the cover is, yeah, unless I'm mistaken.
Okay.
But yeah, they've got the Keep of the Borderlands on the front, and the old cover from B1 In Search of the Unknown on the back.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, that's one of the cool things about Wizards of the Coast these days is they're willing to do these kind of cool fan service things. Also, I think Jeff D is like the Dorian Gray of the RPG set, because when that guy was back in ancient times drawing art for those, I think I was 10 when that came out, and I've had Jeff D on this podcast, and that dude looks like he's no older than 40.
Yeah, he. Did he make a Faustian bargain? I swear he looks young as the day I first saw a picture of him.
Yeah.
My God, we're talking about satanic links to 70s and 80s TS.
Never heard that before.
But the thing is, I'm really excited about getting more in this series. They did Wizards of the Coast did a book a little while ago where they converted a bunch of old modules into 5th edition, called Tales from the Leaky Cauldron, I think. Something like that.
From the inn thing, isn't it? Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
but they have a whole bunch of old adventures in there, including the entire G series, the Giant series. So you can run all of that. So I'm looking forward to getting some of those old stuff, like the old Underdark D series modules, and seeing if we can get Temple of Elemental Evil in there.
So a Goodman actually doing more of these,
They plan on doing more of these, yes.
What, basic stuff or ADD stuff?
All they have said is classic D&D adventures.
Anything, yeah, excellent.
So I don't know how extensive this intends to get, but this is the Into the Borderlands is the first offering. It is now available. It wasn't supposed to be out until next month, but it's available now. So anyone who loves old school D&D stuff, I really recommend it.
That's cool. Wow, people love Temple of Elemental Evil, and I will never understand why, because that was kind of a buzzsaw for my characters back in the day. But
honestly, I think it's more the first module, the Village of a Hamlet. That was a really good module. That one was really good, excellent. Temple of Elemental Evil has to be worked on as by the GM in order to be presented properly.
Hey, that's very diplomatic. We can let it go at that. Hey, Walt, as our resident expert on indie comics, what's the cool new thing with you these days?
Oh my goodness! So friend of the podcast and now frequent collaborator, Mr. Nick Garber, He's got he and his partners over at Apogee Comics have a new not offering. It's not technically super new, but one of the things that they've been doing is taking parts of comics that they're really trying to push and get out there and putting them up on the web for people to read. One of those was Transgenesis. And the cool thing about what Apogee is doing right now is they're telling the beginning, middle, and end of their story all at the same time. So I guess these things kind of meet in the middle at some point, and we kind of get a hint of that with one of the upcoming titles that Nick is working on called War Drums. Excuse me. But Transgenesis takes place a little while from now, and it starts out in Charlemagne, New York at 7:42 p.m. And you get this intense shot of in one of the panels of the city's on fire. There are people running everywhere. You got this little girl running, and the next page there's this just really gorgeous piece of artwork of this demon-looking thing about to shred this girl when in the middle of New York, and like a straight-up knight in shining armor shows up and just shreds this thing. And in have you guys ever seen what the hell is the name of that movie? Feast?
Feast?
Yeah, it's an old it's a B movie.
Chris, is this in your wheelhouse?
I'm familiar with the title. I don't know a lot of details, but this title structure is familiar. Yes.
So basically, the everybody's in a bar and this guy breaks in and says, "There are monsters outside. Everybody's dying, but don't worry, I'm here to help you." And that's when he dies. So in very similar fashion, you get this knight showing up and he just shreds. I mean, he's just a badass. And then he's like, "Don't worry, little girl, I am here to help you." And that's when all hell breaks loose and things do not go as planned. The scene cuts over to, I guess, other knights that are in other parts of the world that are battling this threat that has emerged. And they lose contact with this guy named the knight in the first scene's name, and they're like, "We got to go help this guy." And then you start seeing bits and pieces of an organization that I guess is formed to combat this. Now on the website, you only get 11 pages. If you want to read the rest of it, you got to go to the store. And
what's the link for that so people can find it?
That is apogeecomics.net /transgenesis-1.
Okay, because when I just Googled Apogee Comics and Transgenesis, I did not get there. So
I can put that link right there, and through the magic of the interwebs, cut and paste, there it is. All so, right. But I mean, the artwork is fun. The pacing of the story is very well done. You get this this very big sense of, you can't save him, he can take care of himself, and he's like, "No, I have to go, he is my friend," kind of deal. And it's just a fun start to what is promising to be not only a good series, but also a really good tying piece of how the Apogee Comics is set to move. And if you've been following the different characters of the Apogee Comics line, you can see how things are going and how this might end up kind of tying everything together. So I highly recommend it. Please go to the website, check it out, go on Facebook, tell these guys that they're doing a great job, because the for an indie comics company to do stuff that's this kind of epic in scale, it really speaks volumes of the fact that while the big two is making, big strides and so forth and so on, and doing what they do that they've done for the last 75 years of telling the same stories over and over again, people are coming together and saying, "Hey, I don't want to see Batman hit the Joker again. We've seen it. I'm bored with it. Can we please do something else?" And this is something else. You got guys like the Apogee guys. You got guys like Vince White with his Powerverse, which is, I think, one of the most unique takes on how superheroes get their powers. If you're not checking out that line, you're doing yourself a disservice. So yeah, Transgenesis, Apogee Comics, apogeecomics.net /transgenesis-1. Please check them out. It's really good stuff.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that's about all our time today. I want to thank everybody for coming out. And as always, thanks to our listeners. And hey, check us out on Patreon so you can support the BAMF podcast and all the fun stuff we bring you. And let's go ahead and call it a show. Anybody have any last-minute closing thoughts?
I would like to get some longtime listeners who are also Patreon backers to come on the show at some point.
Well, we got like 11 Patreon backers, so it wouldn't be hard.
Nice.
I think one of them is Jacob, and one of them is Chuck Rice. So, Jacob, you're a Patreon backer, right?
I believe I am.
Yeah. Well, hey, there you go, Walt. Asked and answered.
Hey.
We should really get Heath Wilder from Australia to come on because I know Heath's been a long-time listener. And
Right on.
he often has interesting comments and whatnot. So I'd love to get him on. Hey, there's a movie I'm thinking about watching that was a big deal last year, and I haven't seen it yet. It's Kubo and the Two Strings. Anyone seen
That
this?
is a wonderful movie.
Really? Okay.
Fun.
Yeah, it's on Netflix right now. I'll have to see if I can check that out. All right, cool. Well, hey, thanks again to our listeners for checking us out, and we will catch you next time on the BAMF Podcast.